of our children.
Give them the right resources.
It's important to have good people on the school board.
Do you think Superintendent David Lewis's plan to improve Muscogee County's schools will work?
I applaud Superintendent Lewis for even taking on this challenge. I believe that our community desperately needs to rid itself of the north-south divide perception, and having the realignment of the schools will be a first step in that effort. I'm also very interested in how it will be implemented. And as a school board member, I think it's very important to have that oversight to make sure that the community voice is being heard throughout the process.
The success of the plan, though, lies primarily on how it will be implemented. It has the potential to be very successful and to improve student achievement, because if we can share those resources, then we are saving money, of course, and then also if we can sort of collaborate. Collaboration in education is a key point, and the more teachers and educators can talk to other educators, bounce ideas and thoughts off of each other, I think the better off we are, and our kids will be the beneficiary of that collaboration. We do need to share our resources. I agree with the fact that this imaginary line that has been drawn in this city, I'm born and raised right here in Columbus, Georgia, so I know about the imaginary line between North and South. I do think that it's time for us to erase that invisible line, but at the same time, I know it's going to take more than us naming or labeling the schools differently. So again, implementation is going to be key in that regard. Sharing of the resources, as I mentioned before, is a key component, and definitely I agree with that.
I believe he's on track. I've read the plan. I have a copy of it. I think he is thinking outside the box and being very creative. I think the plan, with the support of the community, which he seems to be doing a good job of gathering, will make such a difference. His goal is for us to be the best school district in the United States. And when you aim high, you're going to get better even if you don't reach that goal.
Absolutely. And the second part of this question is, what are the components of the plan you agree with or disagree?
I believe he's on track. I've read the plan. I have a copy of it. I think he is thinking outside the box and being very creative. I think the plan, with the support of the community, which he seems to be doing a good job of gathering, will make such a difference. His goal is for us to be the best school district in the United States. And when you aim high, you're going to get better even if you don't reach that goal. Well, the one that was just in the news about reorganizing the pre-K programs into early success centers, I think is brilliant. I think you have better resources and more effectiveness by doing it that way. I like his plan for creating a west, central, and east zones and getting someone out of central office and putting them in charge of being on the ground, checking and helping those schools cross-feed their ideas and work together to improve all the students.
What are your thoughts on the job repurposing or elimination and job reapplying strategy?
I think first of all, our first priority is to make sure that we provide quality education for our kids in Muscogee County, for all of our kids. And we've seen budget cut after budget cut, so we're living in a critical time right now in education. So while we're seeing these budget cuts, we're also seeing an increase in the needs from our children, and so something has to be done. Now, I never would want to be in a situation where a teacher or educator has to worry about whether they're going to keep their job or not if they're being effective in the classroom. Because our hottest commodity in education are our teachers and our educators. They are what makes this work. And I think that we need to make sure that we give them the tools and the resources they need in order to be successful in the classroom. But it is about the kids. It is about doing what is effective and what's efficient in order to provide them with the quality education that they deserve.
When I'm on the board, of course, I will ask many questions. I will question everything. But basically, I agree with everything I've read so far. I think so often we get stuck, and we've always done it that way mentality, And sometimes it takes somebody new to come in with a different perspective, different experiences, and someone who has read the literature and understands after 120 days of meeting with virtually everyone he could meet with in the community as well as in the school system, I think he's right on. There are some people who can be more effective in different positions, and of course creating the zones, the east, west, and central zones will be part of that plan. And of course anyone who is a stakeholder in the job they're in has trouble. He told me, David Lewis told me the other day that he sat there and listened to his key people talk for an hour and a half about we've always done the block scheduling, the 4x4, the way we've done it. And he said after an hour and a half, he said, okay, we started that 4x4 program 10 years ago. Look at the scores. They're no better. And in fact, what was happening was teachers who were accustomed to teaching a 60-minute class now had 90 minutes, and so instead of teaching 90 minutes, they were taking the last 30 minutes for students to do their homework and the teachers to grade papers and do lesson plans. So there's got to be a better way.
First, let me say, this is a human resource management problem or issue. And I think that we have to make sure that we're doing everything within the guidelines of human resource management. It caused me great concern to have a person that is operating at one level and then they have to come back and start to operate financially at a different level. That caused me great concern. I want to make sure that we do one thing I do agree with. If we can do this through attrition, that's great. But I want to make sure that if a person has been working in a job and a position and they have been earning a salary, that we call it what it is. If it's a demotion, it's a demotion. If it's a new job, it's a new job. If they're being terminated, they're being terminated. What I think what we have to do is we have to be honest with the voters. We have to be honest with the school district employees and let them know what we're doing and let them make that decision. If that is going to be a demotion, then we need to let them know that they're being demoted and they have to reapply. I mean, a cut in pay to me is a demotion.
What are your plans to help the district save money, and how do you plan to make sure money is allocated fairly?
Well, it's been 10 years since I've been on the school board, and I have not been studying the budgets that closely in the interim. I will examine the budgets. I will ask those questions I always ask. Now, one thing Superintendent Lewis has said is that he'll put the resources where they're needed. And I think that is part of what I'm all about, and that is about the children in the classroom. I think we need to put the resources where they're most needed so that we will produce success for every student in every school, no matter where it's located, what their economic background is, racial or an ethnic identity, and that is the only way we're going to succeed. We need to educate every child in every classroom, in every school in this district.
One of the things that our new superintendent has proposed, and his language is an equitable division of resources. And to the best of my knowledge, what that would mean is resources will be allocated to schools based on the need and based on many different factors. I would think that that is very important. One school may have a greater need than another school, and somewhat we do that now with Title I money. Title I money is allocated to one school, and maybe a school that is excelling a little more may not get Title I money. So I think that we have to be able to look at those monies and make sure that it is allocated as needed. And not only that, but one of the jobs of the board is to have that oversight. And one of the things I would like to do is make sure that the money is not only being spent, but it's being spent wisely, and that we are open and transparent with all of the things that we're doing when we come to talking about resources to the different schools?
I've had the opportunity to serve as a university supervisor at Columbus State University, and one of my responsibilities was to travel around to the different schools in Muscogee County and observe student teachers. And one of the things that I found from that experience is that each school is different. Each school has different needs. The population of kids is different. So when we say that all of our schools deserve the exact same thing, that may not necessarily be true. All of our schools deserve to be stellar schools and to be #1 schools, and to make sure that every child reaches their highest potential. But those needs may vary, and the tools required to do that may vary, because kids learn at different rates and they also learn at different modalities. And I think our teachers and our administrators are the best to decide what tools are needed in that regard. As far as us saving money, I think that being more efficient with the resources that we have is going to be key. For accountability and fiscal responsibility. So I want to make sure that we analyze our budget and get rid of any waste that may be in that particular budget. The other thing is the way we spend our finances, as much as possible, needs to be used directly on the classroom, because that's where we're going to make the greatest impact on our students.
How important is parent involvement? What are your plans to increase parent involvement in schools?
Right. There are some great challenges that each community face, and each family is very different. Whereas one family may be able to participate in the child's activities or PTA, PTO programs, another child's family may not be able to do it because of other commitments, work or whatever. So that is a great challenge. One of the things I think we have to do is we have to look at children on an individual basis and see what the individual child and individual family needs to make sure that that child is excelling and that child is doing everything that can be done to achieve the goals, which is for every child to graduate from high school with a full option of education, meaning that they can go and choose whatever career they want to choose. I think that's one of the superintendent's proposals. So to be perfectly clear, we need to make sure that each child's family is taken into consideration. That goes back to that human cost, that human factor that I talk about all the time. Whereas one child's family may not be able to make it to a PTA meeting, that doesn't mean that that family member doesn't care about that child. So we need to have different strategies to make sure that we include everybody. Technology is one thing that has facilitated a lot of that nowadays as we go forward.
It varies from excellent to not very well at all. One example, when I was on the board, one of my schools was MLK Elementary School. And when I did my yearly visit to the school, to a meeting, there was one African-American grandfather there, and everybody else was the parents of Hispanic children. Hispanics, Indians, people from India, Asians, they value education. There's no question that the children will work hard and succeed in school. We need to convey those values to everyone in the community. And to do that, we need to reach down when they're young, and we have several programs that are doing just that. They were discussed at a forum we were at last night. And make sure that by the time children enter school, they are prepared. They've been exposed to books. They have a language development. The vocabulary is where it should be. If we reach that goal, and I'm confident that under Superintendent Lewis we will, I think we'll make a huge difference. I did visit every school. I visited anything that I could find that was involved. I visited every church in my district at least twice over a 4-year period. And people who go to church are usually parents who are concerned about their children. But we need to reach out in every way we can, and I will support or propose any policy that leads to that end.
First thing that I want to make clear is that our schools in Muscogee County and our teachers, we have some innovative teachers. We have innovative innovative principals right here in Muscogee County, but they can't do it alone. It is a partnership, and it takes our parents getting involved, but it also takes our community leaders, our business leaders, our people in the faith-based world to get on board and say, hey, these are our children. We are educating our future leaders right now, and the schools can't do it alone. And I think that's key. As far as getting parents more involved, I think we have to create an atmosphere of partnership, that when they walk into the school building, they are welcomed, and we encourage them to come. Now, we do have working parents, which means that sometimes we may have to have events that are not right after school or right at 3 o'clock. So working with the community and also working with the schools, and that collaborative effort from the community is what's going to make a difference and increase parental involvement. And I would be willing to get my hands in there and push and do whatever is necessary to increase our parental involvement right here in Muscogee County.
Why are you the best choice for this position?
My background prepares me better than anyone else running, I feel. First, I've been very involved in the community. I was president of the South Columbus Concerned Citizens for about 30 years. I am presently on the regional and local library boards. I help reach out to the community by building habitat houses. I worked on the first 50. I marched with Carver Heights Against Drugs when they first started for the first 6 months. And I just belong to so many local organizations supporting the community. That's civic. In education, I was a teacher at Fort Benning schools for 36 years. The first 6 years, I was an 8th grade English teacher. Then I was a 5th grade classroom teacher for 9 years. In the last 21 years of my career, I was a media specialist, school librarian, if you will, at Edward A. White School on Main Post. Even after retiring, I'm a volunteer docent at the Infantry Museum. And most of our groups that come through are school children. So I combine my 10 years in the infantry knowledge with my teaching experience and give excellent tours out there. I still go out to the school I retired from 5 years ago and do gardening with second graders on Wednesdays. And I'm the kind of person that I'm a teacher to my soul.
I come to this job with a lot of experience in many different areas. One of my greatest experience and that I'm most proud of is I'm retired military. I've worked with soldiers, I've trained soldiers, and I think that translates into many different things that will benefit our district. One, I understand each one of those high school students that have to come from Fort Benning and go and come a part and attend high school in Muscogee County School District. I think that my community service work, working in the after-school program over at Marshall Middle School, that gave me a greater insight as to what the children's need. Many times we talk about the classroom, but there are actually 3 classrooms that we need to take into consideration. There's that classroom before school, there's the classroom during school, and there's the classroom after school. And I think the person that occupies this position has to understand that the child and the family have many different challenges. I understand that. I understand that it not only takes the child and the family, but it takes all of us collectively working together to make sure that each individual child reaches all of their God-given gifts, talents, and abilities.
I have a vast background in education. I come from a long line of educators. My grandmother was an educator. My mother just retired after 42 years in education, and I taught right here in Muscogee County. I'm a product of the Muscogee County public school system, and I taught right here in Muscogee County. Not only was I a teacher and named Teacher of the Year in 2004 at Hannon Academy, but I also served as an academic coach, where I had the opportunity to work on school improvement plans, to work on the budget, and to work on curriculum. When the state changed from QCCs to the Georgia Performance Standards, they asked teachers from all over Georgia to come and to look over the tests for the CRCT and to look at the questions and to give some feedback and to see, are these test questions appropriate for kids? I was one of those educators that raised their hand and said, hey, I will do that. I would like to be a part of that. So I've tried to, I want to expand that. I want to use the experience from the classroom. I want to use my experience as an academic coach, as a SALT teacher, as a student support team specialist, and my experience at the college level to give back to Muscogee County School District. And also, I'm a small business owner, so I know the business side of the board also. I'm familiar with doing budgets, meeting a payroll, and being fiscally responsible.